basketball player because Coach Roll didn't want me to. But I never had one discussion with anybody. I mean, not one with anybody about the black student athletes. Nobody said yay, nobody said no. It was my call, and I made the call, and I went out and got Jimmy Blacklock come in and play for us, and he was a great first player. I mean, you know, he loves me now, and I love him now.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of relationship.
And how did the other athletes respond to that?
Well, like you'd expect, jealousy some, and probably half and half, some strongly supported or at least supported, and others jealous, envious, didn't think they could compete with him or something, and he was that good, and it turned out that some of them couldn't compete against him, but it changed the landscape of basketball recruiting. It was when we began to recruit the black student athletes.
Did you lose any staff or players because of that move?
Oh yeah. Oh, because of hiring or recruiting Jimmy?
Yeah.
No.
Everybody adapted.
Yeah. Because at that time, now today you can transfer almost at will. Mm-hmm. You can go from one school to another. You can hop all over the country. Back in those days, if you transferred, you lost your eligibility, and you weren't going to lose many players because of that.
Did you have to step in and discipline any players because of their bad reactions?
Not to that, I didn't. Mm-hmm. No, I think they knew me well enough to know that wasn't going to be a part of our program.
Actually, one of the questions that I had earlier, and it just got away from me, is, I mean, I have a sense of what kind of coach you were, but from your player's perspective, what kind of coach did you think you were? What were you aiming for?
Well, I've heard them say that hard-nosed, tough, but fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And is that was what you wanted to be?
Well, yeah. Above all, fair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've coached a lot of kids. Don't ever remember playing favorites, playing one kid over another because I liked him or something like that. Mm-hmm. I played kids sometimes I didn't like it. So you're always going to have one or two of those.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see. Oh, that's a good question too. So what was the reaction to your step forward and integration from other schools?
None. No, didn't have any, because we were kind of the tail end of this thing. Mm-hmm. A lot of programs in the South, particularly Southeast, they had already beat us to the punch a little bit, and consequently having a black player on your team wasn't that big a deal. It might have been to some people, because I did hear things like when we had 3 or 4 on our team, or maybe more, that Coach Rawl said I could play. Let's see, I could play 1 at home and up to 4 on the road, but I couldn't play more than 1 black at a time at Texas. I mean, it's stuff like that, which was obviously as crazy as it could be. Like I say, Coach Rawl and I never had one single conversation about football players being black or basketball players being black. It wasn't in our conversation.
Were you among the first in Texas? I mean, in the state to integrate?
We were one of.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly can't say we were the first, because I doubt that we were.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how to ask this question. How do you view that part of your legacy as a coach and as a Longhorn?
Well, I'm happy with how it all turned out, but the credit doesn't go to me. It goes to Jimmy Blacklock, our first black. That first one, if he sets your tone and your example, and it leads as you hope that he would, everything else falls into place. Particularly if he's a good leader and if he's a good basketball player, those kind of good things happen to you, and he was every bit of that.
Talk to me a little bit about what you saw in him that made you say, "This is the guy I'm gonna start with."
Well, I'd watched a lot of players play, and I, including myself, I had the first quick step, and I could beat most people on the first step. I could beat them and I could get around and go to the basket. Jimmy Blacklock had the quickest first step that I had seen on a basketball player, and it worked to his advantage. It also worked to his disadvantage. His first year at Texas, he was our captain. He scored, I believe, it was about 18 points a ball game. The second year we start to play, I see a difference out there. That during the summer, didn't know this at the time, but during the summer, the other coaches thought that he was traveling. Every time he got the ball, that quick step was not a good step. It was a traveling. They got word to the conference commissioner, and they talked about they didn't know how to officiate quick black basketball players that could do what he did. Consequently, they penalized him, and before conference started, a little bit, they had just wore him out, and I'd start him and have to take him out in 3 or 4 minutes because he had 3 or 4 violations of traveling. Every time he got the ball, it was a travel call, and we couldn't win against good ball because we get a travel call like that. And so later on, we'll attest to the fact that he is such a strong individual character-wise. I had to put him on the bench. I had to put him on the bench and start a sophomore guard, Harry Larrabee from Shelbyville, Indiana. Had to start him, and we went on, won the conference championship, beat Houston in the NCAA, and Harry had a great game, but we were able to get Jimmy some playing time. But Jimmy, instead of being bitter, he sat there and he worked hard, everything. He was a perfect, you couldn't ask for a person to be better. And today,